We're now less than 48 hours until election day, and it's time to really start thinking about who is going to win the 2020 presidential election. If you're a fan of Donald Trump, many of us on our channel are, some aren't, but that's okay too, should be looking at election day with nothing but excitement. It seems at this point be exactly the same story as 2016. The Democrats throwing away a huge advantage to crash and burn in the final few days of campaigning. This is certainly the case, according to Trafalgar Group, who we're going to be looking at today. In today's video, we're going to be examining the world, according to Trafalgar, and why the path for Donald Trump to remain in the White House is now looking very easy indeed. You're watching Political. And a big welcome to you, a big welcome to our new subscribers, and a big thank you to all our returning old subscribers. Please do consider subscribing if you haven't already, if you want to join our community. Our community is founded on kind of discussion and debate. So whether you're a subscriber or not, let us know in the comment section down below what you think of today's video, what your opinion is, who do you think is going to win the election, and please, as always, leave a like if you do like the comment. I already hear in the comment section people screaming, "Oh, but it's Trafalgar Group. Oh, it's biased. Oh," what would you say to that?
Well, I would say that they could very well be right, but let's refresh our memories. Take a look at the 2016 map, and this is Trafalgar Groups. They tweeted this out the day before the election, on the day of the election, with what they predicted would happen based upon their polling. They got it spot on in terms of the Electoral College prediction. Obviously, though, you can look at the map and you'll notice that there's a couple of errors. They had predicted Trump winning in New Hampshire and Nevada and losing Wisconsin. And both of those add up to 10, but you can flip them around, you still get the same score. But the real big thing is they predicted, or they seem to be able to tap in to that shy Trump vote, as we call it. Some people say it's a myth. I mean, maybe the polls just happen to be wrong then, I don't know. But they had predicted Michigan and Pennsylvania for Trump, when pretty much no one thought he had a chance in those states, or at least thought, maybe he might pick off one, but it seems unlikely that, he would get all of them. I remember Pennsylvania being described as fool's gold for the Republicans, and somewhere that they could never hope to flip. So
Trafalgar have that kind of insight into just who is voting Republican, who is attracted to them.
Yeah, so with Trafalgar Group, the way that they do their polling is they try and create an environment of anonymity where people who they're speaking to feel completely comfortable in talking about and being honest about their views. So
obviously important in the world you can get fired for supporting Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly. So their kind of way of looking at it is they believe that if you have, say, I don't know, ABC or CNN or wherever, even Fox News and stuff, because they all have Democratic bias according to the averages on 538. If they're ringing up people with live calls and whatnot and this kind of thing, people are going to be a little bit hesitant to be completely honest about what they think. And what Trafalgar Group do is they just try and remove all of those barriers. And it is kind of a little bit, you might want to call them a maverick in the polling industry or whatever, but the reality is they seem to have tapped into something in 2016 to get it right. And it could be that they're tapping into something again in 2020 because the picture just seems very familiar. They're predicting Trump is going to do well in the Rust Belt, whereas all the other pollsters are saying no chance. So it is eerily similar, and we won't know until, of course, as you say, in 48 hours when the voting really starts, at least on election day, whether or not they're right. So we can have a look at the predictions that they've got in the individual states. So they're doing state polling, pretty much all of the toss-ups. They're not doing it in places like Texas and Georgia, which have now or now are considered in that area of toss-up states. But they are doing it in areas around there, which should give you a good indication of, because the demographics are similar, whether or not they would flip or not, or which way they would go. So we've got everything from North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, Arizona, and Nevada. So this electoral map here, this is filled in with the areas that pretty much everyone agrees is going to go, which way it's going to go. Some people are saying Trump can win California, but I mean, listen, anything's possible, but I think it might just be out of reach for this time round.
Slightly, ever so slightly.
Yeah, so if we have a look at, I'll tell you what, first we'll fill in the areas that Trafalgar Group have actually got polling in. So they say Biden can win in Nevada, Minnesota, Wisconsin. They've got pretty much as a dead heat, but with Biden edging it. And they think Trump's going to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona, and Florida. And you've got then a few states left at that point. So I'm just going to basically attempt to fill them in based upon if he wins these states, where these other states are likely to go. I think if you look at Nebraska in a second congressional district in Nebraska, Trump only won that marginally in 2016. And with a majority white demographic, it does seem that Biden has picked up a little bit of support there. And I think it's going to be very close, but I'd probably edge towards Biden on that one. Whereas Maine second district, I think Trump won that by over 10 points. And I just think polling shows that basically being about evens. I'd probably just edge it to Trump if I had to pick one way or the other. And then that just leaves with these 4 states, which I think Texas and Georgia he won quite convincingly. I think all of these states he actually won by about 8 or so points, Trump. And I just think if he's winning places like Arizona and Florida, and North Carolina, then I just think it seems unlikely that Biden is going to be able to win Texas or Georgia, because it means he hasn't got the turnout in these states that he had expected. And so it seems unlikely he'd get them in the others. And then obviously with Ohio and Iowa being in that Midwest region, those should be the easiest states for Trump to hold on to. So if he is winning in Pennsylvania and Michigan, it seems very likely that he's got Iowa and Ohio in the bag as well. So this would be, if Trafalgar Group was doing polling in every state, this is what I imagine it would look like, based upon the polling that we do have of theirs. So with Trump actually winning at 295. So I mean, I want to ask you, what's your sort of like general feeling about this? Do you think that's kind of accurate? Do you see that when you look at the kind of sentiment and your read of what you think's happening?
Absolutely, because what you've done there, I think, very well, is you've captured the demographics. Okay, so I mean, if you look at the Rust Belt, for example, the white working class Rust Belt, the kind of people who've been left behind, Trump's base, at least in 2016, they don't stop at the state borders, right? They are present all across the Rust Belt states, all across these key swing states, and it just makes sense. Okay, if Michigan flips, if you actually look at more closer into the Trafalgar Group polls, then you'll see that Wisconsin and Minnesota very, very, very close indeed, but with Michigan far ahead, and that is very congruent with that huge white working class turnout. But it's very interesting, isn't it? The Sun Belt, it's so important because, I mean, even the mainstream media is saying it. Trump is surging with minorities. He's surging with Hispanics. He's surging with black voters. We've seen a huge swathe of rappers coming out to support Donald Trump, very publicly so. So in these southern states with large minority populations, of course, it just makes sense that they are going to lean more Republican this year than in any other year. It's actually quite astounding what Trump's managed to do with the minority communities. I think you've done very well there in capturing the key demographics.
Yeah, so for me, I think when you look at Florida, we can see there's been so much early voting in Florida, both by mail voting and early in person, and I think Florida gives us a really good indication of what we can maybe expect across other states just based upon the demographics there and the enthusiasm in different demographics. We talked about in one of our previous videos just recently about what's happening in Miami-Dade, where the Democrats are kind of freaking out a little bit that they're not getting the support in that county that they had expected, particularly with young black voters. And I think that indicates there's a real chance there really isn't that much enthusiasm among young black voters for Biden, and that matches up to that sentiment that we see on the internet with with the walkaway movement, because you have these prominent black conservatives like Candace Owens, who are kind of pushing this this idea now in black communities that the Democratic Party hasn't really delivered for the black community in the way that they sort of claim to be. They seem to feel like they have this monopoly, and we've talked about it many times, but they seem to feel like they have this monopoly on the minority voters, that they are the only party, that Republicans have to be the party of the white, and that's the way it is. That's the way they framed it, because obviously the minority demographics are the rising demographics in America, and they want to be seen as that party. What Trump's done is he's come in and he's cast this huge, massive, wide tent that encompasses a whole host of different political views. Many people, I've heard it so many times, they say, I was a liberal, I considered myself a liberal, now I'm voting Donald Trump. And you see he has great support with black voters. It's not, obviously Biden's still getting the majority of them, the vast majority, but for a Republican to be polling somewhere like 16% with black voters is absolutely incredible. And he's got some great approval ratings as well.
Absolutely. And I think polling companies aren't actually taking this into account, because it is such a new phenomenon, the presence of a large conservative population within minority communities. They fail to kind of adapt with the times, and they're still thinking, of the America of the 1980s, right? If you are a minority, you probably don't own a business. You probably receive more from the state than you give back to it. But that's just not the case nowadays. You see quite a lot, and obviously not completely, but you see quite a lot of economic empowerment of minorities. And when you are economically empowered, when you do enter the middle class, suddenly you become far more likely to vote Republican. I think polling, like I say, polling companies, they just haven't accounted for the change in demographics over time. The same actually with the white working class, and particularly white communities moving from middle class strata to a working class strata. They haven't quite accounted for that well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to make then just a couple of final points. I think you're talking about voter turnout. The polls seem to, I think, be weighted towards a turnout similar to a 2012 or a 2008 level, where Obama obviously won. I think they're weighting them towards that level of turnout, expecting Biden to get similar support as Obama did with certain demographics. The reality is I don't think that's going to be the case. I think not only do we have, like we say, Trump doing really well with Hispanics, Trump doing really well for with black voters, for a Republican candidate, I think we have real low enthusiasm among those demographics for Biden, in the similar that we had low enthusiasm with them for Hillary Clinton. So those two things, they're not taking into account. I think a lot of pollsters are looking at the last election and going, well, we got it right all the elections before. That must have just been a blip. I think what they don't understand, and listen, I could be wrong, I'm no expert, but what they don't understand is that Trump is a different beast. He is really a phenomenon, and he very well could change the polling landscape for the future, because it could be that this isn't just a Trump thing. This is now a conservative movement, and it's hijacked the Republican Party. And it could well be that Trafalgar Group are the pollster now who leads the way for how polling is done in America for years to come. So,
absolutely, and we know that voting Conservative is a taboo. And once you break that taboo, it becomes a lot easier to do that in the future. We see the same in the UK, when these working class communities in the north, like where we're from, they voted Labour for the last 60 years based on tradition alone. Once they started to go Conservative, they all went Conservative, and it was a huge sweep. And the UK electoral map has never looked more than shift. It could be exactly the same effect taking place in the United States. I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I agree with that sentiment. And, we'll see, won't we? I think this election is so important because we are going to learn so much about America, and what people are thinking and feeling right now. So I'm looking forward to it. Listen, I said it here because obviously we're 15 minutes in now. Listen, we've just reached over 200 subscribers now. Really, honestly, feels like a real great. It might not sound like much, but it feels like a great achievement for us. We've only been doing the channel for a couple of months, and we didn't expect to be doing so well so early. So big thank you to everyone that has subscribed and does watch our videos. We have quite a number of regular viewers now, and we really appreciate the support that people keep coming back, because it means we must be doing something right. We have a whole host of videos planned now over, well, mostly tomorrow, just a day before the election, and we're going to be giving our official prediction, political election 2020 prediction. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then please subscribe, and you'll get a reminder for that content. So as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.